Crypto Pirates? Welcome to your Discourse Syndicate's FN Hangout. I am your captain, Captain RG3, here to serve you once again. Oh, man. I freaking love all you guys. You guys are awesome. Crypto Pirates. Yes, you are. This community, this Hexican community, or DeFi community, or now it's a PulseChain community. Maybe it's changed. Maybe it's the cabal that only listens. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's what do we got now? We've got Captain Save a Plebs. We got a whole slew of them too. Oh, anyway, it's been nice to be back until I got back. Oh, I do love doing this. I do love coming in here and talking with you guys and talking crypto and talking life and hanging out. And, you know, this has been very cool for over the years. Oh, wow. What's with the wig? No wig. I grew my hair out as long as I could. And then I had it locked. I put dreadlocks in it. So it's called insta locking. So they lock and then they put a little bit of an extension on there. So I'm having fun with some dreadlocks. Anyway, like it. Anyway, let's say hello first to everybody. MT Coiner, what's up? You were first. Sandy Beach, my lady. How are you? Good to see you too. Sorry, missed you when you came out to Cali too. I was in Europe, I think, when you were out here. So yeah, sorry. What's up, Dorsey? Good to have you. Good to have you. And Joe Mama, I still believe. We believe too. We believe too, Joe. And let's see. Yeah, don't worry about it, Zane. We'll catch up somewhere. Let's see. So I've been working so hard, haven't been caught up in the Twitter bullshit. Yeah, I got back from Europe, and I stayed away from social media while I was in Europe, and I got back on Twitter when I got back, and I was like, no, and I just stayed off it for another week, and then lately I've been kind of coming back and forth and whatever. It's just full of BS and people. You know, there's a lot of for some reason the people in Twitter. Well, there's a lot of people on Twitter, obviously. So this is not in general, but a lot of the population in Twitter, the like-minded Twitter sphere folks, there's a lot of projection that goes on. If you don't know what projection is, look it up, check it out. A lot of times what people will do, this is kind of like psychology 101 bullshit, is something that they are, or that they're doing, or that they have become, or that they don't like about themselves. They call other people out for being that, or they accuse other people for being that. And I see a lot of that on Twitter, especially in crypto Twitter. Oh my God. Oh my God. What a mess. What a mess. It's turned into like a mental health social media issue. Twitter is like mental issues everywhere, all over it. But you know, are we going to get a Crypto King says, hey, are we going to get a dismissal decision for RH case? I don't know. I don't know. We shall see. We'll see how that turns out. We are going to be going out there and having a little hangout and stuff. You know, it's funny. Oh boy. So, I got hammered again this last week about the PulseChain tour. And PulseCans, you're welcome, for us going out there and keeping the ball floating. I was accused of supporting my lifestyle with the PulseChain tour, which is extremely funny to me because it's only cost money. And the little bit of it that you can write off on taxes isn't much or whatever, but it costs money. But there was value. We kept, the PulseChain as relevant as we could, whether we were reaching a lot of people or not, either in Twitter or the social media spaces, or even out there live. We were, the turnouts were, less than abysmal. But the people that were there, valued it. The people that were there contributed, were part of, brought people, that wanted to learn, brought people that wanted to talk afterwards, people that wanted to meet, with us and the team and, other influencers and whatnot, or other people in the PulseChain community that would show up at the events. They got to meet them. So, I mean, I saw the value. I know that, the memers and the Captain Save a plebs out there, and the people who are scared of change, didn't understand what it was. When Abit and Patrick first started traveling the country doing it for Hex, they were partying. Let's just be honest. They were having a big party, and they were cruising around, but they were onboarding. There was a lot of excitement at that time. It was bull market was coming. Hex was moving up fast, and we were like, how much are they really doing? How much are they really onboarding? It's probably, not doing that well. Right. So we criticized it. And I'll admit I was one of them that was criticizing it a little bit. But supported them still and let them do their thing. And then as time went on and PulseChain was launching, and they kind of like handed the torch over or decided that they weren't going to do the tour anymore. I said, well, hey, let's keep PulseChain relevant by seeing if this in-person meetup is going to provide some value. And at first it was the momentum of it. It was paying for itself. It was taking care of the events and whatnot. And then until it wasn't, I'm not afraid of things. I know a lot of people out there are afraid to go out and do things, and or afraid of change. That was one other thing I got accused of. RG, you've changed. You've changed, RG. You've changed, Well, goddamn right I did. Goddamn right I have. From the time Hex began till now, I've changed. You've all changed. And for those of you who say you shouldn't have changed or that you didn't change, you're just scared. You're just scared of everything. You're scared of change. Let's face it, we're not just Hex anymore. There is a chain, a blockchain here, and Richard was there to guide all during the beginning of Hex and right before PulseChain launched. And he hasn't been there to guide much, as far as what the community is doing. He's been focusing on, crypto rights or blockchain rights and his court case and letting the community do their thing. So it's been up to us to go out and interpret what's supposed to happen. Now, did we all do the right things? Probably not. I think that we've had our share of scammers come into the community, come and go. We've had our share of bilkers come into the community, come and go. But we've also just had Hexicans trying to make things happen and probably making more of a mess out of things than helping, or just falling flat, making mistakes, not providing things with value, trying to keep people hyped up and spending money on, meme coins and other things that take away from, Hex and PulseChain, and I've been part of all of that too, just like, most of us. But it's about just trying to make things work. What is going to work, what's not going to work. Now, if you're one of those ones who just sat back and did nothing and then came in and criticized everybody who tried to do something, well, you know what I say to that? You're just an armchair quarterback. You're just a chicken shit. You sat back and pissed yourself in a corner in a fetal position while everybody else tried to make things happen. Now, I'm not saying that everybody made the right decisions, but at least they tried to do something. So anyway, that all being said, here we are at the bottom of the bear market, and things have changed, and we as Hexicans have changed. We as PulseChains, whatever you want to call yourselves, have changed. And if you haven't, then there's a problem, because that's what your life in the world is full of, is change. And you need not be afraid of it. Richard even would say it all the time. He would change his worldview on things. And that's what you have to do in order to find solutions, in order to make things better, in order to find success. Look, I've been chasing success, for many, 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 many years, through books and businesses and partnerships and business deals and real estate, you name it. I've tried it all over the place, and I've become, fairly successful without crypto. And even in crypto, I did the same thing. Made a lot of mistakes, put a lot of money into a lot of things that didn't, turn a profit, but didn't stop trying. When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, I think it was 10,000 attempts, or 1,000 or 10,000 attempts before I think it was 10,000 attempts before he created the light bulb. So if you quit, that's when you fail, not when you fall forward, not when you make, when you didn't achieve what you were going out to achieve. You just keep trying, keep going, keep doing. And I hope that the community keeps doing that. Again, everybody needs to do their due diligence, be careful, and watch what's going on in this DeFi space and what's going on in crypto. I've got my own conspiracy theories about what's happening out there right now. And it's there's some scary stuff happening. Why all of a sudden is the people that are leaning into crypto leaning so hard into crypto when they wouldn't touch us, when they didn't want to have anything to do with us? Technology had been out for, Bitcoin's been out for 13 years now, 12, 13 years, 13. And they want to have nothing to do with it. And then all of a sudden, over the last couple years, they've really gotten themselves involved and trying to use it. What are they trying to do? And who's behind it? There's some big freaking money and some big people involved in the crypto space that's out there right now, in the mainstream crypto space, not DeFi, in mainstream crypto. I think DeFi is really what crypto was supposed to be, which was, power to the people is what it was. That's what DeFi is. Bitcoin, completely centralized, And you can't tell me it's not. And your maxis sold you down the river, sold all their Bitcoin to the entities that they were claiming to be fighting against. So shame on you, maxis, Bitcoin maxis. Shame on you. You guys sold everybody down the river, and you're still trying to sell the narrative that Bitcoin's a thing. Very, very funny. And now politics and big business are getting involved. Look who's getting involved. Go do your own research. I'm not going to throw the conspiracy theory out there, but at the highest levels of this government here, and the highest levels of social media and business here, companies that have been around, organizations that have been around writing legislation and trying to pass their agenda along to everybody else to try and steal rights away and make this place the way they want it. They've got their hands in this, and you'd be smart to go do your own due diligence instead of spouting off the same talking points that they're pushing through your social media platforms, because that's what they're doing. They're pushing all this stuff through your social media platforms, and you guys are buying into it, watching it real time. Seen it all. And free thinkers are going away, and people are buying into this stuff like like lemmings. It's funny to watch. It really is funny to watch. I don't know if you guys know what a libertarian is, but you might want to look it up and read it. And that was who the original crypto folks are. And I'm not saying everybody here is a libertarian, but that's the people that it was brought to the public from, is the libertarian community. And they have a certain political view. And the people that are now backing crypto have gone far away from that political view, from people's personal freedoms and small government to a very, very, very different view. And some of them even still call themselves libertarians. And I think they need to go look up the definition and rethink their lives and get off social media, because they're making a mockery of their own tenets that they used to live by. But anyway, everybody can go out there and do their own research, and stay off of social media when you're doing your research. Go out there and use AI to go and try and find good answers. Make AI give you the good answers and do some research. AI is really cool about doing research. I like the way you can use multiple different types of AI tools to go and dig that information out. And, you're never going to vet everything perfectly, but you Google search something and they're gatekeeping things. But if you use multiple AI tools and try and suss out some information, you can get some really good information instead of just fed, a steady diet of bullshit all the time. But with the way things are going, with the political climate, I think that crypto's in trouble. Crypto is in big trouble. There's a lot of hands in the cookie jar. Got a lot of hands in the cookie jar. So anyway, let's see who's in the chat now. Yeah, Jeff Berwick admitted that he missed out on Hex. Everybody that you talk to, anybody big that you talk to, I've sat down with a few of them. They say they miss Hex. Oh, I missed it. And I'm like, oh, you just missed the first round. Here's Brissol. Here comes the Bitcoin and Trump FUD. No, I don't simp on any of them like you, my little friend. I don't simp on those things like you do. I don't believe the hype on any of it. You guys think that there's like some kind of political savior that's going to come and fix things for you. That's not the case. It's not the case. I went through years and years and years of being a middle class American here in California, and I'll tell you what, it didn't matter what side of the aisle made the rules or became president or vice president or treasurer or any of these other things that elect them to office to try and make my life, or they tell me they're going to make my life better. Nothing ever changed for me. It just kept getting harder and harder and harder and harder. And I kept losing rights, and I kept losing privileges and things that, we had or were given, were taken away. All kinds of different freedoms have just been dwindling, and both sides are calling each other, either fascists or socialists. And in the meantime, every time one of them wins, they keep taking away more rights and making it harder and harder for a guy like me to make ends meet or retire. And so I don't buy into like rah-rahing for any one team. Ain't gonna happen. Because I ain't seen not one of them do anything good for me yet. So anyway, but there are distinct differences, that's for sure. Let's see. Crypto King is in the house. Good to see you, bro. Good to see you. Free Reggie Middleton and free Ross. Yeah, I don't know about those. I don't know if those things are going to happen. It's not looking good for Ross because I think it's because of how what they accused him of and what they got him on. You know, it wasn't just drugs. It was like murder for hire is what they got him on, or some shit like that, like attempted whatever. So that's not looking good for Ross. Let me see. Hold on, I got no, not yet. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what did you say, Crypto King? While he was president, shitting on Bitcoin, his government sold hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. Now, when news of government selling BTC, it's bad. Shoot, I missed who you were talking about. Doggone it. While he was president, shitting on BTC, his government sold hundreds of thousands. Now, if you, are you talking about Trump when I didn't know that I didn't know they sold a bunch. Maybe they did. He did dump some, but they're leaning into it. He's leaning into it. He showed up at Bitcoin convention. So, let's see, Mudhog. Hey, keep your head up, Cap. Today is different. Just hold on. Yeah. It's, I've always got my head up. I just try to, do what's right for the community and try and continue to pass along Richard's message and what he's been trying to do and be an advocate for that. Whether it be streaming, traveling the world and talking to people, going to hair salons and talking to, ladies that don't know anything about crypto and they want, to try and figure out how they can build a retirement plan off of it. And I tell them how to do that with Hex. Or if it's just, educating people about what Richard Hart did or building something on PulseChain. Oh God, don't do that either. Holy shit. If you ever build anything on PulseChain, my God, there's half the people out there that want to know what you're doing. And the other half want to string you up, come to your house with pitchforks and shit. How dare you? How dare you build something on PulseChain and take away from our Hex bags and our PulseChain bags? How dare you use a chain? How dare you? And you know what? It's funny because there are certain influencers that can talk about other cryptos and other chains. And then there's us that can't. Like me. RG, if I say anything about another crypto, I'm shilling another crypto. I'm a scammer. Bad RG. Bad RG. Oh, the rhetoric that comes out of some of y'all's mouth. My goodness. And the viciousness. You guys are vicious motherfuckers. I'm not going to get into it, but one of our longtime Hexicans got himself into some trouble. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was his fault. I don't know if it was a mistake or if he got set up or what, but he's in trouble in another country and people were trying to get him out and help him out. And even Richard said something about it, but man, what a scary deal. And some of you guys are out there fucking blasting on the socials about it. But yeah. Anyway, you guys are ruthless. I just left it alone. But anyway. All right. Yeah. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. I see somebody asked how you doing. All right. Well, I got the green room packing up, and it's packing up with a bunch of degens. So I'm gonna have to get them up here in a second. What do you make of the situation? I really don't want to get into it. But I've known a lot of things to happen outside of the US, especially if you're a US citizen, and you do something stupid, you do something that brings attention to you, you could be set up. I don't know. I don't know and nobody knows. So for us to even talk about it or say things about it, I think is out of place. I don't think it's our place to even talk about it because it's a serious situation and it needs to be worked out. And we're not helping any just armchair quarterbacking the situation, especially when somebody's in the situation that they're in. Like if you were there, you'd be moving heaven and fucking earth to try and get the fuck out of there. Guarantee you, you know, whether you did it or not or whatever, everybody would be doing everything that they could to get out of that situation. So until you've been in that type of a situation, y'all need to shut the fuck up. You need to shut the fuck up because there is nothing that will put more fear in you than to be in another country in their prison cell. I've been there and I don't ever want to see that kind of shit again. You don't want to be in that. You will fucking some of you all talk so much shit until you've been in a situation that makes a grown man fucking cry. Some of you need some of that shit. I wish that some of you big mouth motherfuckers on Twitter would have that kind of an experience, would have a situation where you're sitting there with a rifle and bullets flying or something like that. And you're feeling like crying because it's fucking so scary. Or you're sitting in a cell somewhere in a foreign country you don't know nothing about. Think about that shit before you start talking shit about people. But anyway, that's just my little 2 cents. I think y'all motherfuckers are crazy. Just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. So anyway, all right, everybody. I am going to bring up the D-Gens themselves. And then, of course, the positivity princess is in the background. I'm going to let her come up when she wants. She has access to everything. She can come up when she wants. But everybody, Zenith and Will Stevenson from the D-Gen Roundtable. What's happening, guys? How you doing?
Dude, we're doing pretty well. Just got off book club ourselves, but you were talking about international relations and policy, and I mean that's our bread and butter right here, right?
Oh, did I say a couple intelligent words that were like, "Hey, wait, is RG letting people say something smart on the FN Hangout tonight? Maybe we'll show up."
Nah, you're good. We were over on our show. We were actually talking about the good old military deployments, about being overseas and all that fun stuff. And I was remembering back when I was chasing drug runners, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, we have our target, but we can't do anything for like 9 hours while we wait for the State Department to contact their embassy to tell us that, no, it's not their boat, so we're okay to board them. It's like, wow, this is really efficient, guys. We're just going to hurry up and wait for 9 hours while we're doing operations at midnight.
Did you hear about that drug bust they made at that little border town? I think it was in Texas. They pulled 1,000 pounds of fentanyl out the other day.
Jinkies.
They got. I didn't hear about it, but I'm not surprised.
They nailed 130 pounds of meth and 1,000 pounds of fentanyl tabs.
Jesus.
Yeah, a half a freaking ton of fentanyl they pulled out. It was like a little tiny border town. Like wasn't like one of the majors. It was a little tiny one, you know. And it was some white dude in a truck. wasn't a handful of coyotes coming across with some backpacks. It was freaking a white dude in a pickup truck.
I mean, that's what it is. Did you ever see the Sicario movies?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the second Sicario movie, there's the guy that crosses the border to help the migrants, and then he gets picked up by some like suburb mom in a minivan. And it's like, honestly, that's kind of the way to do it, because you either have two options. You can either try to outrun the cops, or you can try to escape evasion, or you can try to evade them and not even be detected in the first place. How do you do that? You blend in. You be inconspicuous. I remember, oh gosh, I'm not trying to be one of the sailors spewing all my sea stories here, but like one of the drug busts that we had back in the day was an oil tanker, or like a small oil tanker. It was like 250 feet, but it routinely made runs between Central and South America to anywhere in the U.S. And what they did is they actually filled one of the fuel tanks with cocaine, and they put a fake generator above it as a fake machinery room. They're like, oh no, this is a fuel tank. There's nothing in there. It's hazardous to your health. You don't need to open it up. But then you look around at the generator and you're like, wow, this isn't plugged into anything. There's no fuel lines that go to it. Yeah, I'm going to inspect your fuel tank here. But the reason I mention this is that, like, yeah, sometimes if you're not going to try to put 4 engines on the cigarette boat and outrun the cops, you just try to blend in and look like you're a normal person doing normal business.
So So you were you were out there in the thick of it. So obvious. I mean, you've seen these things, and what I find funny is that they've made this big narrative about the border and the border issues and drugs. And I know that I don't want to get too deep into it, but I know that. Like I said, a guy coming over through the middle of the desert with a backpack is not bringing as much drugs into this country as a oil tanker with a generator sitting on top of a fuel tank. And that's where it's really happening. Like that's where the money needs to go is let's get some enforcement out there to stop thousands of pounds of fentanyl from coming into, the country through big means.
Yeah,
as opposed to big pharma just distributing it out and putting it in some nice little capsules and labeling it, fucking oxycodone or whatever the hell. I'm a little bit. I think I might be a little bit different from you here, Captain. I'm of the whole legalize everything and let the chips fall where they may.
I agree
not
with
legalize,
you on that.
Decriminalize.
Decriminalize. Yeah. I agree with you on that. I really do. I'm not. I'm definitely not a regulation guy when it comes to the use of drugs and alcohol and substances. I think that if you were to take here's my solution basically for everything. Put it out there. Let the people who want to take the risk pay for it and pay for the problems that it creates. Tax the stuff and make it create drug rehab centers, hospitals, all of these things that is going to be needed after that. Let them, go ahead and have at it. But the same with weapons. I think, hey, one of the things that would really make it easy to regulate your weapons problem is to go ahead and charge insurance on everybody's weapon. You want an AR-15? Hey, that's just like having a Ferrari, baby. Your insurance is going to go up a little bit. You got a 22? Now you pay the basic nothing and you can have a 22. But hey, make people pay insurance on it. If it goes out and kills somebody or whatever, the insurance companies take care of it.
I gotta push back on that a little.
Well, because you want to go with the libertarian route, but it doesn't work. Just unregulating everything doesn't work. We've seen that. They've been deregulating since Clinton, and ever since Clinton's deregulated all this shit, we've lost a lot of liberties. We've lost a lot of good stuff.
Will, you want to go first?
The principle of the principle of what you're saying is I get where your intention's at. The thing that I don't want to do is give the government more authority to make decisions as what counts for this, what counts for that. Like some of the stuff they've already put in place, it's the only thing that they're interested in is restricting liberties for individuals, not in making logical decisions that have positive outcomes or anything. They want to restrict people from doing things, or whether they want to or not. That is the effect of what they're doing, is they are restricting citizens. So I don't think that I'm attacking your plan not on the specifics, but on the principles of that. It relies on the government making decisions on what is the thing that's allowed, what is the thing that's not allowed.
Mm-hmm. So let me turn that on its head for you now. Okay. So we say they and the government. Who are they in the government?
Okay.
And
so
why
people that
is there they and the government?
So people that have more money than me and that have a monopoly on violence, I would like to have the same capability of violence as the guys who have the monopoly. I essentially just don't want them to have an unreasonable amount of leverage over me. You got to think Lockheed Martin.
They do because of Citizens United. You've lost your leverage completely.
Sure. Yes, I do not disagree with you. I have lost my leverage and I would like to gain it back with force.
That's what I'm trying to get at, is that we can go after sensibilities and because sensibilities no longer belong to the sensible, they belong to the they. And see, because really my plan is a sensibility. Hey, let's all get together and say, well, what is a machine gun worth to somebody? Like, go ahead and give everybody machine guns and fucking bazookas. If you can afford them and you can go to the right place, just like you could have a dragster, but you can't drive it on the highways, right? You can own a dragster. You could build a dragster in your garage and own it and everything, but you can't drive it in the highway. Well, okay, give everybody, you can have a machine gun if you want, but it's going to take specific rules. It's going to take specific licenses and things like that. That's how things really work in the world. If we want these things, you can't just you either regulate them or you give them to everybody, right? Or we all sit back and bitch and complain about not being able to do something. So how do you do that? And then when you've got regulators that are all paid for by, like you said, the industrial complexes of one way, shape, form, or the other, then it's not us anymore. It is they. And it's, what are they? What is their agenda? How much violence do they want? Are they controlling all of us with that? Are they just making us angry on this side and angry on that side by taking away our liberties and continuing to gain more and more power, which is what they've done. And now here we are calling them they, and it's really not the they we really think they are.
I would like to suggest that social enforcement is the reason that we don't drag cars up and down the highway. I don't think that it's more of a, or not, social enforcement is the wrong word, but I don't think that people are out there not driving, race cars on the highway because it's illegal. I think they're not doing it because they don't want to, sort of thing. Like there's like a pressure, or it's a lot of risk and little reward.
Well, you can't drive a 300 mile an hour dragster down the freeway. It just, you can't do it. It won't work.
Yeah.
But
it's not a good
and it's just just kind of a, it's kind of just an exaggeration of the point I'm trying to make.
I hear you. I if you don't mind, I think this is actually 3 different topics. So first off, forgive me because I don't know
multiple topics in it.
I don't know the history of how car insurance got started, but at the same time, the issue with car insurance is that there's twofold. One is that I think a lot of people we're forced to have insurance by the government because it's mandated. Therefore, because it's mandated, there's a restricted market. Therefore, there's all kinds of different market forces going on with it. But car insurance has 2 aspects to it. One is the monetary or the physical aspect to it, which is that if you do have car insurance and you do get into a wreck or some sort of damage, there's the physical item that is replaced by it. The other half of that is legal liability and medical liability, which is that insurance largely is the liability protection system, which is that in the United States, we have, I think this is a fortunate thing. We have, fortunate, not unfortunate. We have a very detailed and large tort system of law, which is that if you were responsible for damaging someone else and they can prove it in the court of law, you were responsible for the damages. What insurance does is it helps you protect against that, which is that driving is inherently a risk, which is that you have the potential to have some sort of mechanical failure or operator error, like a skill issue or something, and you can be involved in a car accident, and it is deemed that you are at fault. Therefore, you are liable for the damage you have caused to other people. What insurance does is it could help you effectively just handle all the costs associated with that, whether it's the actual legal process or it's the actual monetary damages after the end of it. So that's the car insurance aspect. So the other 2 aspects I'm going to hit on real quick are the Second Amendment case that you're talking about for gun insurance, and then also the Citizens United case, because Citizens United is a very, very important case. And Cap, I do largely agree with you on this one. But specifically when it comes to the firearms insurance thing, it's that firearms are specifically used for self-defense. If they are used not in self-defense, you are criminally liable. And if you are not just criminally liable, but also civilly liable, and you can be sued in both courts for the same act. And it does not violate habeas corpus, aka being tried twice for the same crime, because it's civil and criminal. So when it comes to firearms, owning a firearm is it's a tool. It's really no different than owning a knife. Whether you kill someone with a car, a knife, or a gun, the end result is not really too different other than just the amount of damages. Obviously, the tools make certain things easier to do than others, but at the same time, firearms specifically have, in the United States, I understand we have an international audience here, but firearms specifically in the United States, we have the English jurisprudence of self-defense, which is that you have the right to defend your own life and the life of others that you care about, as long as it's done within arguably the Good Samaritan kind of laws. And also it is slightly state
Within your
dependent
states. Yeah.
correct. There you go.
Yeah.
But the point is that insurance would not apply to firearms because
Don't get
the
insurance on your
liability-
knuckles. you know?
correct. The
But
liability already
the
applies.
only pushback I would have on that is when you look at the statistical damage that firearms cause and where they really cause damage. Do they cause damage to criminals in self-defense, or do they usually cause damage to loved ones, yourself, and innocent bystanders through accidents and whatnot? Most
Like
of
cars?
the damage is done through, other means other than self-defense. You don't see a lot of self-defense, murders, maimings, that kind of stuff. It's mostly, crimes of passion, accidental discharges, those kinds of things, which is kind of the same thing like an accident. But no, I'm making an argument that says, hey, if you really want to let people have things, make them pay for them.
I would agree with you, other than the idea that I think, especially in the United States, there is a distinct history of showing that if you start to restrict access to things that are deemed, this is where you start to get into the rights conversation, which is that rights are the things that are ordained from a creator or God or things other than a government. Because the argument goes that if the thing is given to you by government, then government also has the ability to take it away. Your ability to preserve yourself existed before the government existed. Therefore, the means and the methods to do so should not be restricted by the government. Implementing something like insurance is akin to a tax or some sort of restriction or regulation on people. And this does get into a very large, broader conversation about, is a speeding ticket a punishment imposed by society, or is it a tax for people that can pay it? Once you start getting into that gray area, that really deviates away from the idea of rights, which is that you have the ability to do things that are provided to you by God or your creator. Yeah. So once you start imposing any sort of restriction, that's where you start to cross that line, specifically when it comes to the self-preservation stuff. I'm not going to disagree with you with the idea
funny,
that
tools. And what's funny is I just had a lot of these conversations in Europe with people, and they think we're crazy. They think we're absolutely insane. And
if you want to argue a second place, you can, but
argue about there being weapons availability, and it's like they don't even think about it out there. It's like, to us, trust me guys, I love my collection and pry it from my cold damn hands, the whole thing, but I am trying to speak, when I talk to people in Europe, even Richard said it. Hey, I want to be somewhere where major cause of death out here is gun violence, and one of the Richard said, I'm in Europe because that's one of the things I don't like is the gun violence that's out here. And they don't have this issue out there, and we do have it here. So we think, let's add more protections. Let's conceal carry. Let's do whatever we can do. I mean, again, I was in a situation just recently where someone was pulling a gun out on me, and I reached for mine, and he stopped. And it was the closest I've ever come, and this happened about a year ago. But I was glad I had my gun on me. I wasn't glad he had his gun on him, but and I was legally carrying. The police came, everything they caught him and all that stuff. But I mean, it was a situation where, darn, if we didn't have it, one little split second later, one of us would have been laying on the ground.
I hear you. Well, in this case, I mean, the time-honored tradition of stay strapped lest ye be clapped was well in place here. But at the same time, when it comes to what you're talking about, the European sensibilities and whatnot, it's, in my personal opinion, I'm sorry, this is going to be an Uncle Z soapbox here, but it's the idea of fundamental values and principles that you stand on and you appeal to. And that is, I think in the United States, it's very clear what that was based on. And fun fact, it was English jurisprudence, which originally back in like the 1200s and 1300s, it was talking about how a certain level of affluence or nobility required you to maintain a certain amount of capability or weaponry in order to protect yourself, your province, and the crown. It's not that you had the right to self-defense at that point, it's that you had a responsibility as an Englishman to maintain that level of capability. But my main point here is that when you stray away from a specific set of values, you kind of get to that idea of like the general welfare. And if you will indulge me, I guess I did start off as book club guy, so here we go. From the Anti-Federalist Papers themselves. This is something we talked about recently.
I like you got this bookmarked.
I do, unfortunately. It comes
Always
from Brutus
ready.
number
Semper
6.
Paratus. You must be a Coast Guardsman. Sorry, continue.
So this is from the people that were specifically against the idea of the federal government or the creation of the larger federal government after the Articles of Confederation failed. Everyone knows about the Federalist Papers, but the Anti-Federalist Papers is one of the lesser known, but in my opinion, more justified writing, so to speak. So here we go. But it is said by some advocates of the federal system, quote, that the idea Congress can levy taxes at pleasure is false, and the suggestion wholly unsupported. That the preamble to the Constitution is declaratory of the purposes of the Union, and the assumption of any power not necessary to establish justice, etc., to provide for the common defense, etc., would be unconstitutional. Besides, in the very clause which gives the power to levying duties and taxes, the purposes to which money shall be appropriated, and specifically vis-a-vis to pay debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare, I would ask those who reason this to define what ideas are included under the terms general welfare and common defense, provide for those things, and to apply for the same cases to everyone? No. No one will pretend that they will. It will then be a matter of opinion what tends to the general welfare, and the Congress will only be judges in the matter. To provide for the general welfare is an abstract proposition, which mankind differ in the explanation of, as much as they do on any political or moral proposition that can be proposed. The most opposite measures may be pursued by different parties, and both may profess that they have in view the general welfare, and both sides may be honest in their professions, or both may have sinister views. Those who advocate this new constitutional declare they are influenced by a regard to the general welfare. Those who oppose it declare they are moved by the same principle. And I have no doubt but a number on both sides are honest in their professions, and yet nothing is more certain than this. To adopt this Constitution and not to adopt it cannot both of them be promotive of the general welfare. To put it in English terms, different sides of an agreement can argue that something is for the general welfare, but because they start at different positions, they're going to end up at different areas based on the same argument. So Europe argues no gun. The U.S. argues have guns.
Everybody have a gun.
What is the general welfare? What is good?
Yeah. And the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about self-defense. We sit here and we can read out of the book about, what Congress can do, but let's read what it says in the Second Amendment, right?
I hear you. At the same time, though, the Federalist Papers are very clear in this.
Should be rallying once a year and going to the range with me, and we should have a militia leader in my neighborhood, and we should all know where everybody is, everybody's at, and hey, okay, let's make sure that we're all ready once a year to go and militia.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, but what you're talking about there is something that deviates from the libertarian principles, because unfortunately the libertarian and the liberal principles kind of identify people as very individualistic, but what you just alliterated to there is the idea that your community as a whole is an entity that you identify with. So therefore you're not just yourself or your family, but you're actually part of a community at large. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to that is something you all get behind. But when it comes to the foundational documents, the Bill of Rights was actually one of the arguments against the Bill of Rights was that they thought that this kind of stuff was so obvious we don't need to put it into words. It's yeah, of course you have the ability to petition your government and peaceably assemble and have the freedom of speech and the ability to have this debate. And again, with all the other things, they thought it was so obvious they didn't need to put it into words, but here we are.
Yeah.
I will say,
by the way, go for it, Will.
In respect to the people bringing up the argument that like Europe is safer than America and there's more like gun violence over here. I will agree that there is more gun violence in America. America's major export is violence. And I will also say that most of the gun violence that happens in America is usually in places where gun rights are pretty heavily restricted and heavily regulated and things of that nature. So like there's not as much gun violence in places where guns are aplenty. There's lots of gun violence in places where the state has a predilection to restrict gun usage. So I mean, like that doesn't necessarily.
It's population is what it really is.
Yeah.
It's not, it has nothing to do with the laws or the type of people. It's population density that creates that. Like, for instance,
I'm going to go one step further.
I would rather say
it's not population density, but it's cultural homogeneity, which is that there are examples in areas which have a large amount of cultural homogeneity, or aka like likeness or similar culture, similar values. But it's once you kind of stray away from that people don't see each other as their kinfolk, and they actually like detach mentally from the idea of like not hurting a fellow brother of their city, but just some random guy on the road. So specific examples of this is going to be like Switzerland, which mandates, I think, weapon ownership for military age males. It requires that they be proficient with them and meet up with the local militia. Another U.S. example is New Hampshire, which is one of the states with the highest amount of gun ownership. But when it comes to the cultural homogeneity, it's some of the highest in the country, and they have the lowest gun crime in this country as well.
And the highest number of machine gun owners per capita. Fun fact.
That's just because they're rich and they can pay for the tax.
But again, it's like you said, it's a population and cultural differences that.
Oh yeah, it's both. It's absolutely both.
Like here in California, like I'm glad that we don't have open carry. I'm glad, because we have a bunch of crazy people here, and we have every crazy person from every other state in the nation coming here to be crazy. And I'm glad the laws are the way they are. It's a little more difficult for you to get a CCW here, and the people that go through the process are allowed to actually be the ones that have them. But I mean, it doesn't stop the amount of guns that we have out here. Of course, it doesn't stop the amount of gun violence we have out here, but it does make it a little bit more sane, I guess. But California is
there is a lot of sanity going on in California. That's one of the things that they're well known for, is their high percentage of sanity out there. And this is what's great. Like, you choose to live in California. I choose to have a house in New Hampshire. Zenith he's got his stuff where he's going. Like, voting with our feet is one of the most important things in the union of these states. So like, that's something for the folks at home to consider. If you're in a place and you don't like what they're doing, then leave.
Yeah. That is one of the big points. The ability to leave, or the ability to exit the situation you're in, is one of the most important things. Because if you don't have the ability to do that, then that's where you kind of get that tyranny aspect, where it's like things are being forced upon you. But as long as you always have the ability to like get up and go, things really aren't being foisted upon you, unless it's from like a very, very heavy hand.
Yeah. And I'm just playing devil's advocate on all this, because I am a gun-toting Marine / human rights guy, but I do like to play devil's advocate on it, because like Richard kind of got my juices flowing on it, and I started, and I'm older. I'm of a certain age now, and I've saw gun violence.
I know what you're talking about. You're a spring chicken, Cap.
And thank you. And one of the things that I do know through experience and through being around gun violence, and growing up with the Crips street gangs and these neighborhoods and whatnot, and seeing crimes of passion, is that in the heat of the moment, like for instance, a situation I had this last year, in the heat of the moment, if you have that tool on you, and you are tunnel visioned, and you have that anger, that disdain, where you would never really think about killing or what we're supposed to say, unliving another human being, then it's so easy for that decision to happen within a split second, with 3 pounds of pressure, 2 pounds of pressure, and everyone's life changes at that moment, and when it does happen, everything changes. I had a good friend who was a police officer his whole life, was getting ready for his retirement. He was actually teaching classes and stuff. And he was he was teaching a course, and he had a weapon out, and he shot himself in the leg. And it changed the whole trajectory of his life for an accident, physically, financially, emotionally, professionally. His whole life changed in an instant because of just that tool and what it did. And then it didn't do it in a malicious way. This was just an accident, and then of course to see gun violence and what it does to people and what it has caused is a whole different story. Like,
Oh, yeah.
my little cousin, who's the same age, would have been the same age, and was killed by my uncle in an accidental gun incident, when we were just 3 years old. So it's and it changes everybody's life at that point. And it's so easy to make that decision, versus some other type of a decision with some other type of tool. But it's very easy to instantly, change the trajectory of everybody's life at that moment. Hey, we got somebody else in the green room. I'm gonna bring him up. Hey, and he's a European, so maybe he has something to add to this. So,
is he European or is he
Dr. H? Well, he's
Doc H. You gonna take that? Are you European? I thought you're on a different continent.
Hey. Well, I'm European because that's where I was brought up. I now live in North America. Yeah. And I live in North. So I've actually got quite. I can see both sides of the hill. I can see one side and the other, which you guys can't.
I'm open to it because, like I said, I am of a certain age and I am seeing things a little more openly, So let's hear your take on it.
Well, yeah. So I'm military as well. I was in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was all bombed up. We went into the hills and we blew up a ton of crap. So I'm not a stranger to weapons. But in England, the police, I still think that Bobby's on the beat. The normal police don't carry guns. I mean, they didn't when I was a kid. They have special SWAT teams that come in to deal with things when things get rough. It blew my mind when I went to chiropractic school in the States. And the very first day that I walked into the veterans office and they said, hey, H, we're having a raffle. And in England, we have meat raffles. Yeah, you throw a couple of bucks in and they draw some meat like a roast or. I said, yeah, sure, was a meat raffle or something. And they said, no, a gun. And I'm like, you fucking what? That's just completely foreign to me. So I was in a city in New York. I won't dox myself too much, but it was a kind of a bit of a what do you call it, Rust Belt city. And the first time ever I'd been in the vicinity of a murder was it was about 200 yards away from my house. It was my barber's. I used to go to this barber's, and it was there was a lot of it was a poorer end of town, and there was a shooting, and it was the other side of my neighbor's house where the barber was, and my neighbor had been there for 20, 30 years. He was Italian in origin, and I think he'd seen a lot of violence. So I said to him, hey, such and such, what about that murder then? And he did not bat an eyelid. He said, oh, he must have owed someone money. And I'm like, yeah, but a guy got killed. Yeah, he just must have owed someone money. And I'm like, what? And then the other example that blew my brains, not literally, so let's rephrase that. The supply.
Here you are.
Well, actually, I've got two, all from the same town. I actually bought a house with students in rather than just renting, because it was cheaper to own a house and it was actually cheaper to own a house and not rent it out than it was to buy to rent a dorm apartment in the college I was in. But I filled the house with people as well, so I ended up being very cash positive, which was nice. But downstairs in the basement, we had two sets of tumble dryer and washing machine. And I was out traveling, like driving up and down the road, and I saw a guy in a secondhand tumble dryer. You guys don't call it tumble dryer, I don't think, but anyway, washing machine tumble dryer set, for the laundry set.
Yeah.
And it was secondhand. He says $100 a piece, and I'm like, great, awesome. So I bought these. I needed 2 sets of them because it was a 2-family house. And his name was John. So he came and renovated them and stuff, and we just got talking. And we were talking about guns because I'd been in the area that he lives in, and there was a big gun store. You could go and buy guns there, which is obviously very normal to you guys, but was kind of a novelty to me. And he said, yeah, anyone gets into my house, they're not getting out, which speaks to that law that I think the captain mentioned about 20 minutes ago. I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, anyone breaks into my house, they're not getting out. I said, what do you mean they're not getting out? I said, well, I've got my guns. They're not getting out alive. Because in this country, if they're dead, then they can't testify against you. So as soon as they're on my property, they're dead. And this is what I think, guys. It doesn't matter what I've got in my house. If it means I've got to kill someone to protect it, come and fucking get it. Come and take it. There is nothing that I own that is more valuable than a human life. And as Captain says, when you pull that trigger, you got to live with that. I think this guy I don't know. He maybe live with that. I don't know. I don't know his background. He seemed pretty intent on it all. But there's nothing I've got that's worth that. Anything that's really worth stuff is banked away. They're not getting their hands on it by just coming into my house and taking my shit.
I 100% agree with you. There was something that disturbed me to my core a few years back ago and made me rethink. And it's just the same situation you're talking about. Being in the military and knowing what, death brings as far as emotionally to everybody around that situation. And, and just through life and losing people in the streets and all that other stuff. I heard an audio recording of a murder, and it was two young men had gone into a house and robbed it. And they were coming out of the house with stereo equipment, televisions, whatever it was. They were coming out of the house with equipment. The next door neighbor caught them and had a shotgun in his hand. And he was on the phone with 911. That's why it was recorded. And he was telling them that there was these gentlemen. They were in the house. They were robbing it. It was his neighbor. He's got a gun. And they were telling him to stand down is what they were telling him. And you could hear him going, nope, they're coming out the house now. And he looks at the 2 gentlemen. Well, you hear this over the phone. He says, you're dead. And he pulls the trigger and blows these 2 kids. Oh my God. And you think about it and you go,
he's going to jail.
They were doing something wrong. Well, of course, I don't know what came of the case or anything with him. But like you said, it hit me profoundly because I understand protecting yourself and your property and everything, but we all make mistakes. We've all done stupid things in our life. Maybe not everybody has gone in and done a home invasion robbery, but people do that. And do they deserve to die because of that? Do they deserve to have a shotgun blast to the chest because they robbed somebody's house? I tend to think no, because I've seen people who've made a lot of bad mistakes in their lives and get a second chance and become really, really good human beings and have remorse for some of the things they've done. And I don't think it's worth anybody's life. So that kind of, cowboy mentality to, shoot people for doing stuff like that really, really disturbed me and got me thinking about this whole issue and where we've gone as a culture to where we think that's okay. And the other thing is I saw, social media posts on that issue where people were cheering it on. Like, hell yeah, I'd have fucking shot him too, and it's like, really, is that where we've gone? Is that as human beings, is that where we've gone? Like another human being deserves to unlive because of a mistake that they've made, doing something like that. So, it had me. I understand where you're coming from, Doctor. I get it, and that's kind of why I play devil's advocate on some of this stuff, because it's so easy to just say human life doesn't mean anything, and justice does.
Cap and Dr. H, I think you guys are both entirely correct here, which is that as gentlemen and professionals and former military men, all of ourselves on the panel, there's a difference between celebrating taking life, as in just murder, and then the difference between stopping and neutralizing a threat, which is that really is the intention, and that is the thing to uphold. The thing to not glorify is death itself. Because like Dr. H, you said it perfectly, which is that anytime a loss of life, it's honestly a serious event. And just like Cap, what you were talking about earlier, which is like, even if you have a misfire and you shoot yourself in the leg, these are still instants and decisions that can alter an entire life, even though the situation itself happens in the course of like 2-3 seconds, potentially, if not less.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that it's not the celebration of death and murder and a culture of killing other people just because they like start to tinily infringe on something. It's the idea that if you are willing to use force, you're stopping a threat specifically for that intent purpose. Especially in the United States, when you look at like shooting justifications and breakdowns of use of force when it comes to police work or civilian work in that matter, it's that the use of force continuum can be flipped on and off very, very quickly like a light switch, both directions. Which is that if someone is intending to take your life, you do have the ability to protect yourself in accordance with the idea that your life is equal to other people's, therefore they don't have the ability to infringe upon you. But at the same time, the moment that those people stop becoming a threat to you, you lose the ability to take the course of action that you were intending to in the first place. Again, if they re-engage, then it also alters the rules drastically. But the point is that it's not just like, oh, you crossed the line, therefore I have a death license for you, and I have the right and the ability to be judge, jury, and executioner. It's no. It's right here. We are protecting life. Unfortunately, when you cross the threshold, the option does become viable. But at the same time, the point is not to glorify the ending of other people. There is a value and a principle to uphold, and you yourself have to, not to get too Spider-Man on you, but with great power comes great responsibility. If you're willing to engage in that sort of decision-making yourself, you have to understand the risk, the consequences, and most importantly, the responsibility behind it and the consequence that comes with it too.
Exactly. There in the situation, we're gonna get on crypto.
Sorry,
but real quick,
what's been good for people? What's been good for people this week?
Well, I wanted to just comment real quick. The situation that I was in was I had there was a hit and run accident where I was rear-ended and got out of my car. I was like, oh my gosh, everybody okay? I'm looking. There's 3 cars involved behind me, and young man that caused it, car was destroyed, packed up his shit and ran. And I said, hey, and I pulled my phone out and started videotaping. You're not going anywhere. Just calm down, stay here. Everything's going to be okay. Let's just get this sorted out. He looked at me like, stuck his hand in his pocket. And when he stuck his hand in his pocket, he started to pull his gun out, and he had it with his 2 fingers, and he pulled it out of his pocket. And he was just basically kind of trying to show me that he had the handle out of his pocket. And when he did that, I pulled my shirt and went to draw on him. And he saw that and dropped the gun back in his pocket and continued to walk. And at that point, I didn't pull. I just watched him and made sure he didn't reach back into his pocket and let him walk away. And he walked away. And then the police caught him later anyway. But like you said, that's the kind of situation versus if I was to just pull my gun and try and stop him and put him down on the ground, now I'm in the wrong. He was trying to just walk away. And it's not my place to, if I was to try and stop him at gunpoint, I'm a kidnapper at that point. I can be charged with kidnapping at that point. Even though he was a hit and run, if you don't understand the law and you don't do the right things and you don't have insurance, which, I do, then, if you make a mistake, you could, get yourself into some real trouble, So
I think here is the trouble. Here is the problem. The mindset, if you have a gun in your pocket, neurologically, you're not the same person that you are if you're not armed. So in other words, you're going to be in a higher state of fight and flight. You're probably, a little on edge because you're carrying a loaded weapon, even at some level, even if it's subconscious. And if you've got a tool in your bag, guess what? At some stage, you want to use that tool because you've put a lot of time, energy, and money into it. Even if you don't understand what the consequences are. Now, it's okay to cerebralize it and to talk intellectually about it. But when I went into a war situation, 2003, into Iraq, I dropped 100 Marines off in helos into the Al-Faw Peninsula on day one. I went around through Kuwait, and in the war fighting phase, we sent from our unit 12 bodies back, and 11 of them were blue on blue. So in other words, that was friendly fire kills. Now you can say, well, that's tragic, but it was war. But at the same time, I even noticed with myself crossing the border with grenades and with a weapon with one in the spout, which is very unusual for the military, the British military. We don't normally have one in the spout unless everything's going wrong, or not going wrong. You're in a war fighting footage. And our rules of engagement were basically you could shoot anything, which is unheard of. You know, I've never heard that in 15 years of being in the military. And I was ready. Actually, I was actually geared up, and I noticed around me all the Marines were super gung-ho. And there was even one guy just jumped out. There was some Americans taking out a house with an Iraqi, and Sergeant Major just jumped out of the truck and was legging it down the road just so he could fire his gun. And I was sat there thinking, initially I was actually really revved up as well. And then I thought, hold on, I don't want to kill someone. So I better, and I'm a big believer that what you project can definitely come to pass, whether it's just my imagination and I'm more alert and more aware of it, or whether I energetically actually create something. I'll be honest, I don't know. I think it's a bit of both, but I definitely don't know. So, but what I did say to myself, if you carry on with this attitude that you want to fire off your gun, guess what? I used to call it the gun. I was a Navy guy. I used to send the Marines crazy when I'd say, "Where's my gun, Sergeant Major?" You'd go, "Sir, it's a weapon. It's a rifle. It's not a bloody gun." So I was a stupid Navy guy. But anyway, the point was, I said to myself, "Look, if as you mentioned earlier, Zenith, I'm here to do a job. If I need to do it, I'm going to do it like all guns blazing, literally and figuratively. But until that happens, I don't want to be in the situation where I have to kill someone."
Yeah,
agreed. Best way to not be in that situation: don't be in the situation in the first place.
The point is, in that war fighting situation, in this most surreal day of my life, actually it was about a week later, I was in the port complex, Azabaya Port, which is quite close to Basra. A bridge tank had just pulled up, and it had bullet holes in the side of it. And I was speaking to the tank driver, and I said, "Wow, looks like you had a busy day." This was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That morning, we'd been briefed that there were Iraqi special forces going to be heading our way, and that Chemical Ali, the general, had told them that if they didn't launch RPGs into our complex, which was the HQ for the commandos, then their families were going to be executed. So we were on kind of high alert. Everyone was kind of revved up for that. But so this is 5 o'clock in the evening. This guy says, "Oh, this tank's got." He said it was incredible. He said we were putting the bridge across, and we saw these gunboats come up the river, and the commando commander that morning at the meeting had been ordered not to go onto the river because of these Iraqi special forces they were talking about. So he said these guys started firing at us, and that's where the bullet holes come from. And I think it was 40 Commando that was with them. 40 Commando got the anti-tank gun. Actually, well, I think, it was an anti-tank. It might even be rapid. But anyway, there's an anti-tank weapon. And he said he fired it. He said you could hardly even see these gunboats. We blew them out of the water. He said it was incredible. That night at about 10 o'clock at night, my boss just collapsed. And we thought it was a special forces guy had got him, but it wasn't. He just literally collapsed and started choking. So I was doing mouth to mouth. The field hospital was 100 meters away. The sergeant major ran to the field hospital to get the gear. By time he'd got back, it was 30 minutes later. I'd been doing mouth to mouth with my boss for 30 minutes, me and a sergeant and another guy. And that's a fucking long time to do mouth to mouth on anyone. And he was dead. I mean, we knew he was dead. He's probably dead after about 5 minutes. But you can't stop. The rule is once you start, you can't stop until you're relieved by medical. And I wasn't medical at the time, until you're relieved by medical relief. So anyway, they ran down and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're late." there's been a whole bunch of Marines got blown up in riverboats. They went up the river when they shouldn't have. And at that moment, I pieced all of those things together. And I'm like, holy fuck, this has been a massive blue on blue. And I mean, I don't know what's happening now. I mean, the cone has been arrayed, but the BBC actually did I heard they did a program on this exact event about 4 years later. They did a program on that whole kind of event. So, but it's just because people were in that. So that commander must have been in that. Let's get out there. Let's use our guns. We're here. You know, we've got it. Let's make it happen. And it just all went horribly wrong. So anyway, it's that heightened sensitivity that you have when you've got a gun in your pocket. That's something that I'm very suspicious of.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take it back to crypto. No more war stories.
Beautiful.
If you don't mind, real quick, Dr. H, did you say you were a pilot?
No, I was an engineer.
Oh, okay. Hey, me too.
All right. So this is how we're going to bring this. This is how we're going to bring this. I'm going to answer this guy Arthur's question. An old question that we've answered a long time. He's probably not even here anymore. He's probably just a trolling. Do you care about your Ethereum hex, or do you just focus on PulseChain hex since the fork merge? Richard abandoned eHex.
He did not abandon eHex.
He did not abandon eHex.
He simply said he does believe that the PulseChain version of Hex will be more valuable in the future. That does not say that Ethereum Hex is valueless. It does not say that he is abandoning it. It does say that he thinks that the gas fees and the use case on PulseChain are much better than Ethereum. By the numbers, if you want to go look at it, if you're somebody who chases low market cap and low liquidity coins, eHex is actually your better play if you're going for pure speculation, baby. So take your pick. Are you here for speculation, or are you here to Quattro Cinco stake? If you want a Quattro Cinco stake, guess what? PulseChain's a great chance, is the best option for it right now. And there's a possibility, I'm not guaranteeing anything because this is no guarantee of future profits or efforts or work or whatever, but theoretically, Vitalik and Ethereum are going to get their stuff in one sock, metaphorically, and get the gas fees fixed. So theoretically, sometime in the future, there you go, exactly. So theoretically, sometime in the future, the Ethereum gas fee problem might be solved, in which case, if you have a stake for 15.4 years right now, there's a decent chance that in 15.4 years, the gas fee is going to be somewhat fixed from what it is right now. So there is even also the possibility of the use case of Hex from the staking mechanism on Ethereum. By the way, shout out to our good friend Crypto Kool-Aid. He is one of the people that really hammered this lesson into me, which is that if you are not staking Hex, you are not actually utilizing the utility of the token itself, which is that it is fundamentally an inflationary token, and the point of that is to reap the rewards from locking it up, having delayed gratification, and enjoying that benefit later on. If you hold it liquid right now, you're going to experience inflation just like the US dollar is.
Yep.
Sorry, was that exactly. Too much there?
Nope, that was exactly, you nailed it. And we've been screaming that from day one, and I'm glad you were able to put a stamp on it and say, look, we all of us who understand Hex understand the same thing. And again, Richard didn't.
Cap, real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Real quick, on the panel, hands up. Who has Hex on PulseChain?
I swing always.
Who has Hex on Ethereum? Oh, wow.
Both ways.
It's everyone. Everyone has both of them. Shocker.
Got my
exactly.
It goes on all the chains, baby. Even on Ethereum proof of work. I still have my Quattro Cinco.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
There we go.
So the one thing that we don't talk enough about, and what you just hammered home, was staking, and how important, staking your Hex is, and utilizing Hex for that
is the function.
Process. It is the function, and that's what makes it valuable. And it's not about holding it and trading it when it makes its X's. Of course, that's everybody's prerogative, but you're being diluted by the people who are staking, because they are bringing the supply to the table through their Hex that they have in their bags. So their bags are growing while yours is sitting there getting diluted by inflation. And that's That's just the truth. It's like having dollars under your pillow versus having dollars in a high APY tool.
Bingo.
Which is what any financial advisor would suggest against, is you putting your money under a pillow.
Yeah,
which
sure.
in times,
that is a good
in
principle.
this economy with this is not such a bad idea.
There's a lot of good principles we should all be applying even now in this current kind of flat period. And I've been talking about them on my new stream. What do you think of this one, Zenith? You like this one? The richest man in Babylon.
Yeah, yes.
We're doing it. I'm doing it chapter by chapter. So
yes, sir.
Then you'll be able to listen to it from start to finish in your car or when you're running or whatever. I'm going to piece it all together, and then I'm hopefully going to remodel it to be the richest man in Hexaco. I'm doing some AI stuff, and So, Captain, I think you're going to be in chapter 4. You're going to have some cameos.
Oh, really?
I'm getting there. I've had Richard and Hexo and Coffee are in chapter 1. You go see if you can spot them in the Babylonian background. There's some cameos there. So I've just got Richard in chapter 2 as well. Chapter 2 is the richest man, and I'm doing it 12 o'clock midday EST on YouTube, and I'll try and stream it on. I'm pretty crap. I've not done this before, so I couldn't open the chat. I couldn't work out how to do it. So I'll get that. I'll do a test tomorrow, guys. I'll do a test about 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. If people want to find out about George S. Class, and he is the author, I'll put together some material. I'll tell you all about him.
Dr. H, what day of the week are you doing your streams?
Doing the stream on Sunday at midday EST. So that's 5 o'clock for the Brits out there in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the morning for the Australians, and you people on the West Coast there, I guess it's 9 a.m.
I love it. By the way, I think this is a really fundamental and great book, and it's kind of a black pill and a white pill at the same time, which is that you realize the good news and the bad news is that most financial advice can be written on a bar napkin.
Yep.
Yeah. There's some points in there that sound fundamentally sound, though, but actually because of crypto, they're not true anymore. So I hope to have some discussions on the side. So do subscribe. And the reason being is, as you can see behind me, chiropractic's my main bag. I'm actually remodeling the office, which is why I'm scruffy and I haven't actually done a good job of setting up for this one. But if you subscribe and do the notification thing, it's just that when I do get an opportunity, I'll probably give like half a day's notice and we'll have a little stream and people can come on and discuss what they think about chapter 1 or 2 or read ahead or whatever.
Nice.
And,
then,
thanks.
Rather than get in the weeds, I would like to get on a subject here that look, when you read these self-help books, and I know that you guys have been going through a lot of them, and I've read them all and gone through them all and tried to apply them all in businesses and the things that I do, and even in crypto, which is a whole kind of new animal, its own animal, where some of this stuff may or may not apply. But the one thing that rings true to me in all of this is, when it really comes down to it, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, to being an investor, to being an innovator, to being a person that wants to bring change, it's really about mindset, and it's really about which direction you're focusing and how you help others around you, especially in the space you're in or what you're trying to promote or bring about, what attitude they have. And that's kind of the one thing that I've tried to do here with everybody is, bring discourse, bring civility and rationality to conversations, agree to disagree on things, and stir the pot and play devil's advocate on a lot of things to get everybody's thoughts rolling, but to always bring a positive spin to it and where we're going with this, and try and manifest in people's minds a direction of peace, love, harmony, success, and abundance. Like trying to keep everybody focusing, going in the same direction, and in a direction that's going to bring us abundance. Because when you start to think the other way, and especially when things happen and occur to you, for instance, a big, long, elongated bear market, you start to change your mindset. If you look on crypto Twitter right now, look at the mindset that's out there. Look at it. Look at what the bear market has done to the mindsets versus the very same people that you can go look at their tweets right now and look at their tweets from 3 years ago when the bull market was in full rage. Completely different human beings, completely different mindset. And they've allowed the market or things that occurred around them to continue to drive them down. Now, I've done okay in the bear market. I'm not, I'm like all you guys. I'm 99% down, just like everybody else. But I didn't let it get to me because I know that there's going to be a brighter day. I know the sun's going to come up. I know that this too shall pass. I know that, we've seen these days before and they will go away and there's nothing new under the sun. We're going to see another bull market.
So Captain, when you say you've done okay, you mean you've done okay mentally, yeah?
Yes.
That's what you mean. Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of stuff, lots of positive stuff, and it's helped me as well, for sure. Your channel, particularly.
Well, thank you.
True.
I mean, that's how it should be. Like, if you're not towing that line, if you're not trying to do things to make things better, what use are you? Are you trying to drag everybody else down? Are you trying to get everybody else to kind of contribute to the lack that's out there? Because until we all start thinking about abundance, until we all start, there's nothing's changed in the world. It's in all of our attitudes and how we're doing. There's still the same amount of money. There's still the same amount of opportunity. There's still the same amount of everything out there that in a bull market and in times of abundance that there are right now. It's just people's mindsets change and they flip. And once you start, like, if you're going to crash, they tell you, if you're heading towards a rock and you're on a motorcycle, don't look at the rock, look at the open road. Because if you look at the rock that you're heading towards, you're going to hit the rock. But if you look at the open road, you're liable to steer the bike away enough to get out of that accident. So I think that we're all looking at that rock as we're crashing right now. And that's the direction that this whole space has gone. And it's disheartening. But again, I can't let that get me down either. I got to keep moving forward and not even let the fudsters, the haters, the memers, and the whiners, the criers. I mean, literally, they still calling me to this day saying, well, you've changed, RG. You've just changed, and I'm like, well, maybe you should, because that's what life's about, is change. And you need to either advance and move out of where everybody else is if it's not going the direction you want to, or you can be a tag along and go ahead and buy into it. I choose not to buy into it.
For true. Cap, I got two things for you. First off, you stole one of my points that I was saving for a Sunday show, which is that crypto Twitter very much is in that bear market mentality, even though statistically we are technically in the bull market. I guess it just shows like how hard this bear market was on some people and they're still feeling it. But yeah, to give a little love to a hexologist on Twitter, I had a tweet saved of his. He says, we're all irritated. Price down sucks bad. Going after one another won't pump the price. We're all grown-ups and don't need or want to be told what to do with our money. If you want to go do something, go. If you want to donate to someone, then donate. And it's that right there. And one of the questions that we got asked on a stream, yeah, good dude. One of the questions that Will and I got asked in one of our streams recently was that it feels like Richard Hart is kind of out of the space right now. And until he comes back, he's still going to be out of the space. And is there anyone that can carry the torch? And if so, why? Not trying to kiss up here, but I said you. I said RG3. And the reason being is that you're one of the few people, especially in a very negative space like Twitter, that has a positive, constructive vision for the future. Because I think a lot of people, especially the PulseChains and the Hexicans, it's like when PulseChain launched, it was awesome. We have the shiny new thing. It's fantastic. Great. What do we do after that? And the answer is people build projects, people chase the new projects, chase new things. And until something actually happens in the market, we're still just chasing this very, very, very small internal things going on. And that's where you really lose hope and you lose focus and you lose purpose. Because at the end of the day, I would hope that a lot of people in the space are using this as an investment vehicle, not as a trading or a day trading thing, but as an actual investment vehicle, aka you're looking at years, if not decades on the horizon about where you want to be from now and the strategy to get there. So if you keep chasing the new thing that comes up on PulseChain or Solana or a meme coin or any other thing that comes out, you're going to get distracted and you're going to lose that vision of the future. Positive, constructive vision, and the people willing to put it in place are going to be those are going to be the people that people rally behind. I had a guest come on the stream somewhat recently, and one of the things I mentioned that I would love to do a stream with you and them is that they are more in the political space, but they're operating from a libertarian mindset. And it's something that we've talked about, which is like, how do you provide leadership in a libertarian space, which is the ideal is that you are a very individualistic and atomized person. And you're responsible for yourself and your family and the people that you care about most. Outside of that, everyone else is kind of nebulous. And it almost seems paradoxical, which is like when everyone is focused on being an individual, how do you build the movement? How do you build the momentum? And how do you provide that leadership? And I think it goes back to what I said before. It is the positive, constructive view of the future.
Yes, I agree. And then it's about leadership. It is about leadership. And unfortunately, that's what takes that utopian libertarian view of individualism and starts to morph it into governments, rules and regulations, and all those kind of things. You know, human beings have been through these cycles before, you know, and there's nothing new under the sun. And these things bring about and come about on their own. And there is no new, like us libertarians wanting to create this, like you said, this autonomic society where there is nothing new. They've tried to have it before. And usually what ends up happening is, well, we need to do this. Well, how do we do this? Well, we all got to come together and do this. And we've got to, you know, come together and either put all of our sweat equity together or put our value together and make this happen for us all, you know, and then that's where it starts. And there's no way around it but to try and mitigate it to where it's comfortable for as many people as possible is really how it needs to be. Unfortunately, the world's gotten in a lot of different crazy spots. Well, I got to do one quick piece of housekeeping. SJ, if you are back there, would you go and see if I accidentally banned Dorsey? I think that I went to put him in timeout and he might have got banned.
Yes.
I don't see him anymore. It looks like he got kicked out.
He did get banned. That is correct.
Okay.
I was watching that because he asked, what is a T-share? And I was like, oh, that seems pretty relevant to what we're talking about.
You get banned for asking that question around here? Oh.
You guys don't know the joke. You guys don't know the joke. So it was forever and a day. They tried to get me to explain a T-share, and it was like the captain's not smart enough to explain a T-share. So they would always say,
that's a pretty decent joke.
What's a T-share? And so every time Dorsey does it, he gets put in timeout because I know where he's going with it. But I think, SJ, can you see if you can unban him somehow?
Timeout versus unban. You gotta figure out the difference. Over on our channel, we accidentally learned it the hard way multiple times with a misclick. The running joke for us is that if you have Moon in your username, you're gonna accidentally get banned, and then we have to unban you. So we've nicknamed all those people the Dark Side of the Moon Club.
It happened to like 3 Moon people. I'm pretty sure that it happened to Moondog. It happened to Moonpilled Rational Optics. And correct me if I'm wrong, but
I want to say Moonmutt.
Moonmutt as well. Yeah. I mean, you know, something.
Power of the mind. Power of the mind.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a coincidence. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it says he got timed out. Okay, Ross, thanks. Maybe he should have been back by now already, though. Maybe he is. I don't know. We'll see. I think
next time they ask what a T-share is, I want you to direct them over to Kool-Aid, and then he can talk their ear off for like 3 hours. Yep. Only on T-shares, exclusively T-shares. Oh, shoot, by the way.
We need to record him. We need to record him doing that. I guess his Hexicans just ended, and he's going to...
What do we got there?
I don't know. What is that, a hat?
This is my FanForge gear.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
Interesting. Very cool. Yeah. So we're going to, all right, right on. We're actually going to be, look at you go. Look at you go.
So we're here supporting the boys. I see you guys. I recognize good work when I see it.
Appreciate it, man. No, we're going to be streaming about FanForge and kind of doing more of a gaming stream than a crypto stream. It's going to be more entertainment gaming, where it really sits. I mean, it does function on the PulseChain blockchain. It is NFT, centric, but it's really onboarding people through gaming, entertainment, NFTs, art, audiobooks, those kinds of things, and really like kind of taking blockchain to the gaming world. And we're going to start streaming, doing our show here on Discord Syndicate about FanForge in the next week or so.
I'm
so
very
thanks for
excited
support,
for this
man.
project. I'm very excited for this.
It's getting more and more exciting. I mean, it's the I can't say who, but the people and entities that are signing on right now to FanForge, they're big. They're big and they're exciting and they're fired up about it. All of these people here's what's interesting is that you guys all know Crypto Kool-Aid.
Boy, do we.
and I've watched him work in the gaming industry over the last few years. And the guy is tireless, and he works really hard at what he does. He works really hard in the space on all the projects that he works on and just helping people in general. Like he will help anybody. He will give anybody the shirt off his back. He's just one of those guys. And I've watched him go through company after company after company. I've watched him work tirelessly, 72 hours, 48 hours in a row to try and get product put together for these big companies that he works for in the gaming industry. And they're all the top names. And to see like a lot of his work not come to fruition, to see how they treat him, to see how they hand him off here, hand him off there. He has to go find another gig. Just the shuffle, the corporate bondage that these gaming companies have put on these people. And now that we've created FanForge and the guys from Blizzard are there, there's guys from other gaming companies that are there. I mean, it's kind of like, I know that, I fanboy on them too, but I'm not as much of probably a fanboy as a lot of you guys, because you guys like know these games a lot better than I do. I was a grown adult, working and stuff as I saw these games come out. But, these guys are like the best of the best in the world, but they all have the same issue that the big companies have kind of like soured them to the industry. And they all have this creative, now that there's more tools for them, now that there's like AI to help them get rid of busy work and they could be more creative and put more content out and develop even better. They don't like operating in the slow, dysfunctional corporate world that they've all been in. And now with blockchain and the ability to curate their own content and bring other people of like minds like them that are sick and tired of the corporate, stuff. And now that blockchain kind of gives them the sovereignty to do so on their own, that's what FanForge is. And it's so cool to see how happy, like we have meetings a few days a week. These guys are like ecstatic. Like they were all beat up when they came. They all had the same stories. They were all like, could this really be what we want? And over the last year watching them, they're so happy. They're excited about what they're doing. The people that they're bringing to the table are like, are you guys real? Did you really find this utopia that you guys are talking about? And it's just really cool to see them all getting excited about what they're doing and having fun doing what it is that they've worked their whole lives to become, and not have to be under the bondage of the corporate structure, and to be able to do their own thing and talk about how they're going to edit content and move content around or change or do things together versus, some corporate head somewhere else that has nothing to do with the creative, but is making money decisions or whatever. It's just really cool to see these guys all excited about it. So it's going to be, FanForge is going to be something special, man. It's not like anything that crypto's ever seen before. These guys are not crypto people, but they see the value in the tool that blockchain gives to them. So it's going to be cool to watch it come out.
Absolutely. The approach that you guys are going with it is also incredible in my mind, which is that the concept is to put the actual content that fans care about first, and then crypto is merely a back end. Like if you want to engage with the crypto side of it and the blockchain side and actually move around assets and do all that kind of stuff, you can, but that's not the point. The point is that the content is good first. And I'm here for that. I'm absolutely here for that.
Exactly. The blockchain part of it and the crypto and wallet and NFT part of it is just, it's like something they don't even see. Like they'll have a crypto wallet and they won't even know that they have a crypto wallet. They will see their audiobook and they won't even know that their audiobook is an NFT. They won't even know that they have the ability, maybe even later on, to open up the back end and go, hey, there's a wallet here. What does that wallet do? Well, it's a DeFi wallet that allows you to put crypto in it. And you can put anything in it you want. Like just have somebody send it to you. Oh, wow, I didn't know I had a wallet. Yeah, here you do. And it's in your, because it's going to be kind of like a Steam platform. If those of you understand what Steam is, it's, where you can get content and games and this and that. And so they'll have the same thing. But it'll be functioning on the blockchain, and they'll have NFTs that represent the products that they purchase, and their purchases will be, through a crediting looking system, but it's really crypto moving in the background, and they're kind of being fooled into using blockchain and crypto, and just because they want the content.
Love it.
So we're hoping that might be some type of a secret sauce to onboard people into PulseChain.
It's a great way of doing it. It's the subtle, and then if people want to get more involved, they can. But at the same time, it's kind of like secretly onboarding people without them even noticing. And then one day they're going to realize, oh, hey, there's value here. Might as well access it.
Yeah, I think now as well is an optimum time to start seeding Hex and Pulse to those people that you can still talk to about that. I mean, I was kind of lucky. I kept my powder dry because I was still working it out, so I never actually spoke to anyone about onboarding. But if I start mentioning it now, even though they might not sign up now, in 6 months' time, they're going to see big changes. And then they'll be asking me, well, what the hell was all that about? Tell me about that again. What was it again? So I think now is the time to start seeding it.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to do a quick live stream, just buying $1,000 worth of Pulse or Hex and staking it and just following the wallet. I mean, I don't know if you got any input on that, Captain. Well, that's a good idea later, perhaps. But yeah, I just think that'd be a good time. I mean, I've got like one last bullet to fire, and that's me fucking done. I'm finished. My bag bulging at the seams.
It's about doing it the right way, or just doing it for people to look at. I remember when Hodl Dog had his show every day. He would stake a little bit of Hex. He'd go in and stake a little bit of Hex. And I'm sure it probably wasn't his, personal real wallet or whatever, but he had daily stakes on Ethereum, like a little amount. So I'm sure that didn't end up working out in his favor. But he was showing people every day how to use the adoption amplifier, bring his Hex in, stake his Hex, and he was creating a ladder. So yeah, good idea. We gotta come back up with the old stuff again. And when the bull market comes, people need to learn how to use their Hex. Like we talked earlier, if you're not staking it, you're not using it properly. But real quick, I want to say to Just Live, who was the World of Warcraft guy that was interviewed a while back, or was it Diablo? He was on both. And some of the others were on World of Warcraft, but that was Paul Lyman. He was one of the creators. He created the characters, I think, Tyrael or something like that. I'm not a big Diablo guy.
Tyrael, one of the angels in the original Diablo game. It's that was super sick character design. It's like a hooded figure that's still glowing and has wings and has like a giant sword. Super sick.
Well, that's Paul, who's like the head of our team from that side over there, from the gaming developer side. One of the heads, there's a few of them, but he's that's who we interviewed, and just great guys, just really good guys that have been kind of beat up by the industry, but they have so much knowledge and wisdom about it all, from development to the business end of it, to what works, to what doesn't work, to what's been, because they've been the most successful guys in the world when it comes to gaming. I mean, they've done all the big stuff, and it's just kind of cool. Well, it's not kind of, it's very cool watching these guys operate, function, develop, create. I mean, watching them develop like when they were creating the logos for FanForge, like these guys, like, of course they're all creative. So they all start like throwing in like these projects in like split seconds. They're coming up with this and that and this and that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the stuff these guys are putting out, like they had a dwarf that they had a video. Somebody put a video out of the dwarf breaking that anvil, coming out and that was the logo. And how fast they were putting that content out and watching these guys work. It was amazing watching it happen. And it's going to be they're bringing some cool stuff and some real professionalism to PulseChain and stand by, because it's going to be exciting, guys. It's going to be really exciting.
I love to hear it. Captain, I hate to interrupt you guys and whatnot, but I got to head off to bed and get some sleep in. It's been great chatting with y'all. Doc, it's been great meeting you, bro. And I love hearing the war stories. Oh,
always welcome, Will. Thanks for coming by, my man. And thank you for always helping support us when I'm away and stuff. You guys are the best.
Well, pull up a sandbag one day, Will, and we'll tell each other stories.
I like it. I love it. I'm gonna catch your stream on Sunday. You said it's at 12 o'clock Eastern over on your channel.
Thank you. Yeah, 12 o'clock Eastern. I'm gonna do a test stream tomorrow, probably about 3 o'clock Eastern. If you want to join me, that'll be about the author.
Okay, 3 o'clock, anyway. 3 o'clock Eastern. And for the folks at home who do not know what your channel is, it is Dr. H the cryptopractor. Man, that's
I'm just about to put that in the chat right now. I did put it on already, but I'll do it again.
Okay, sweet. Well, I will see you. I'll be lurking your chats tomorrow and also on Sunday. Everyone,
thanks.
You guys have a good night, and
thanks.
Remember to degen responsibly.
Yep, go see him over on the degen channel, guys. All right, and with one leaving, we've got another one jumping in the green room. We're going to bring a whole new conversation, I'm sure. Everybody, it's the Fast Abdul. What's up, dude?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good to see you, man.
I'm just hanging out at getting some nature here, and I was catching your stream on my cell phone when I was on my boat, and it's too dark for the boat now, so I figured I might as well jump on.
Yeah, love it. Look at the lake. That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
Yeah, I think last time
that's the lake through the trees there. Yeah,
I think the last time Fast Abdul came on our stream, he was actually live streaming from the boat. It was kind of wild. Good time.
Yep.
So, hey, if you don't mind, I'll tee it up for a question for our newcomer here. Fast Abdul, how's the sentiment in the market right now for you? We're kind of seeing that there's a lot of fear and kind of people getting tired of the perpetual bear market on Twitter. What are you seeing out here?
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't know. I saw like the news this morning of like, the stock market was way down and doom and gloom. And then like I pulled up a bubble chart of the stock market. And I was like, it's down stuff is down like 10, 15%. Like that's nothing to us crypto bros, right? Like to me, it looks great. Yeah. Like what are you complaining about? So I don't know. I think the PulseChain bros in particular, like we've already ridden this storm. This is not a big deal to us, like wait 3 months and everything's going to be back to normal. Like this is just like a blip, like this is not the big one in either direction. So yeah, carry on, bros. Let's keep going.
Sure. By the way, the stats you're referring to, I was doing some research on this for the show coming up on Sunday for us, is that we in the United States, we had the Federal Reserve meet on July 31st to discuss interest rates. They chose to not drop interest rates, even though back in December of 2023, they were talking about doing potentially 3 interest rate cuts for 2024. We've gone the majority of the year now, and we have 0 cuts. So that came out then, and then the market was pretty much primed for a quarter point cut in September. Since then, we had a jobs report come out, and it was about 115,000 jobs short of the projection. And additionally, unemployment crept up to about 4.3% from 4.1%. For a little bit of context, we started off the year at around like 3.6, 3.7%, and we've kind of been ticking up like 0.1% at a time per month. And now we're at this point where the Federal Reserve has been talking about how they're their primary job is to ensure full employment and stable prices. What that translates to is that they watch inflation and they watch the unemployment rate. So one of the stats people were talking about is that if unemployment hits about 4.2%, that could be one of the things that triggers a rate cut. And additionally, if inflation drops low enough, that is also going to be a signal to drop rates as well. So within this last week, actually, we started off with a 90% rate, 90% chance of a quarter point drop for the upcoming meeting in September. Since then, after we got that jobs report and the unemployment number went up as well, that jumped up to a full half point cut as well. And that now is sitting at the 90% mark, according to the CME Group FedWatch tool. It's an aggregation of futures markets. So pretty much just like what the markets are betting on is going to happen. So it's kind of wild to see.
And what's the timing of
is.
that, Zenith? What's the timing of that? Isn't there an election within like 90 days or something like that?
Yeah.
And September is the
Free.
date. Do you think that maybe that might be some kind of a planned initiative to
look? I have been
the
on the record
a little bit at the end to make everybody really, really happy. Throw the stock market in a tizzy, and
Yeah, good.
Look, I put this hat on. I've put this on previously to talk about the cynical view that the federal government might induce an artificial rate cut to help and boost employment numbers and economic numbers. Yeah,
right, gentlemen, I have to wish you a good night. Have a great time. It's way, way past my bedtime.
Cryptopractor, everybody go check out his channel. He's going to be
come and check me out midday on Sunday. Be lovely to see you just before you have your Sunday dinner. Roast beef and Yorkshire puddings, of course. See you later, guys. Bye now.
Fair enough. Adios.
We'll see you.
Bye, Dr. H.
So, Zenith, what historically happens after the cut?
So there's two real scenarios, one of which is down, the other is up, and the thing that is neither of those is sideways. So traditional markets typically like stability, aka no changes or a very steady and gradual change. Anytime you get a change in the rate cuts, you can see up or down depending accordingly on which way it goes. As it goes right now, one of the prevailing theories is that when you lower interest rates, what you're doing is effectively you are lowering the cost of borrowing money. AKA, it means it's easier to operate on a loan for, I don't know, something like a business, the thing that drives the economy. So when you lower the interest rate, money becomes cheap to borrow, so to speak, which kind of incentivizes a little bit of economic activity, whether it's in the business sector or what I think personally is in the United States. The home market has actually been held up a good bit by the high interest rates. So theoretically, if you had a decent drop in interest rates, it might incentivize people to actually be willing to get a new loan for a home and actually start to see some of that buying and selling, and you get turnover of inventory. But more importantly, what you get is a turnover of capital. This is a personal opinion on this one, but one of the things that I see in the market... Exactly. It's velocity of money, which is that when you have the ability to transact and you have velocity of money, people are more willing and able to move money in, out, and between markets, aka, I don't know, like real estate and crypto. So more people are willing to sell a house that's overvalued, capitalize on those gains, and then turn it into some sort of asset, whether it's stocks, bonds, or maybe, I don't know, some sort of new thing on the stock market, like a Bitcoin or Ethereum ETF. What do you know? That's us.
Yeah. Or a business. And I like where you're going with this, because that's exactly what happens. And then you also got to look at the season. Like, it's home buying season. And like you said, it's been stifled because we're going into the home buying season where everybody's going to look, the more majority of the inventory is looked at. And right now people are having a hard time with it with these interest rates and the elections here. You just look at the timing of it all. It's like, okay, look what's happening. So, and then with Richard's court case coming up in October, it kind of all coalesces together in some kind of a strange, almost put your foil hat back on, bro, and check out what looks like is about to happen. So yeah. Here we go. It's looking all like right. The stars are aligning and things are coming together. The storms are coming.
So hear me out. We recently saw the entirety of the governmental machine on the Democratic side of the aisle rally against their own president. What are the odds that we can get them to rally against Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, who is the person leading enforcement through litigation, aka the person who wants to sue everyone to get things done. I think it's entirely possible he gets canned, even without a new president in the election.
It's a possibility, but I think that he's already, it appears as though he's pivoted. It appears as though he's backed off of just a bit. He's been very quiet. He wasn't very quiet, a year ago. And now all of a sudden he's kind of backed off of everything. And, election year, probably shut up. But I think they probably would have fired him already. But changing of the guard might be an easier way to do it versus just straight out firing him. That might be the way to, politically correctly remove him and bring somebody else that's more friendly. I don't know. Or another October surprise and, change it up and make all the crypto bros happy, and get them on the ballot, into the ballot box too. I don't know.
That's true. One of the interesting stats I've seen is that I think it's like 18 million Americans hold some sort of form of cryptocurrency, whether it's actually self-custody on a centralized exchange or through an ETF. And with more ETFs being more available now, I think that number is only going to go up. Additionally, I think the SEC in particular is in a very vulnerable position, specifically Gary Gensler's leadership at the SEC, for two reasons. Number one is that they have burned through a lot of goodwill through traditional means of government and litigation and adjudication. Specifically, I'm gonna keep pointing back to the debt box case back in Utah. This was back in March, I'm pretty sure, where one of the judges actually ruled against the SEC to the point that they awarded damages for the defendant. What this case was pretty much was that the SEC claimed that this crypto project was funneling money internationally, but in reality, they knew full well it was entirely American citizens transferring money within the country. They specifically and purposely misled the court and misportrayed direct evidence to the court to get an injunction against these people to freeze their funds. You can go through, by the way, go check out Nuclear Herbs on Twitter. In my personal opinion, he's the foremost and leading PulseChain and Hexican lawyer in the space. He is fantastic, by the way. I love Chuck.
He's good.
I love Chuck. He covered this in particular and translated it into normal person English. Basically, the judge in this case actually excoriated the SEC to the point where they said that they have ruined about a decade's plus of goodwill and faith with the SEC, knowing that their actual agents operate in good faith and do good work, and instead they specifically misportrayed evidence and then doubled down and lied upon it when asking. This led to the point where they actually shut down that branch, and someone in that position resigned, although if you speak corporate or government, you know that they got fired and they were allowed to save face and resigned. And it's stuff like that is at the point where it's like that is causing a lot of mistrust with the SEC on top of the massive losing record that they have, which all started with XRP. The losing of the XRP case was the first domino in this series of effects that has really just struck against the SEC's. Keep in mind, before Gary Gensler was in the SEC, the SEC had a 98%+ conviction rate with all the cases they took up. That is a near perfect record. Since then, it has dropped well below 90% because they just keep getting handed L after L. And additionally, instead of just getting handed losses through the court system, they've, through whatever force you want to explain, they've actually vacated investigations and prosecutions into other cryptocurrency projects, like, I don't know, the Ethereum investigation. And most recently, they actually released, exactly, they dropped it. And most recently, they also dropped an investigation into, I believe it was Solana, Cardano, and one more. I think that this is one of the cases that really got Twitter, especially the PulseChain Twitter, going, saying that, oh, wow, look at these. The SEC just declared these things not securities. Therefore, PulseChain's not a security. It's like, all right, I don't want to overstate our victories. Exactly. I want to celebrate our victories, but I don't want to overstate it. Specifically, the SEC at this point is they've taken so many L's in court where the courts have actually told them that the things they've done are either bad faith, misinterpreted of their own rules, or just wrong outright. So now they're at the point where they're actually cutting losses before they get to that point, dropping investigations, dropping prosecutions, so that instead of getting an actual ruling declaring certain things are not securities, they're just trying to drop the ball. They're trying to take their ball and go home before the court can rule that things are not securities. So unfortunately, did the SEC declare that Ethereum and Solana and Cardano and that other third I can't remember right now are securities? No, they never ruled on it officially. However, they did drop the investigations into them, which is a very large and telling step in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and let's not forget what the Supreme Court just did with defanging all of the regulators.
Oh, Chevron deference, baby. Chevron deference is the biggest. It's arguably the biggest case of our lifetime. I know I'm an absolute nerd trying to scream about this from the high heavens, but this is such a massive ruling against the federal agencies, which is effectively an unelected fourth branch of the government at this point. What it does is that Chevron deference is a court case back from the 70s, where the courts actually determined that instead of being able to sue federal agencies over their interpretation of the rules, because the federal agencies are the experts, so to say, whatever they say about the regulation that they were told to create by Congress, because they're the experts, whatever they come up with is theoretically unarguable against. Therefore, instead of trying to argue with them over the actual statute of the regulation and the reasonableness of it, instead you have to argue with them over like the application or the fair application or stuff like that. What the courts did is they took that away. They pretty much put it back in the hands of the courts, which is saying, hey, courts, you're able to look at the interpretations of legislation
and make the
determine and make a determination if it's reasonable or not now. So the great thing is that, what you're probably going to hear on this argument is that this is a fight between the courts and the federal agencies and the regulators about like how to interpret this stuff. But what it actually is it's actually a condemnation on the legislators for writing legislation to the point that it is vague and loose enough that it can be interpreted by federal agencies. So a lot of people are saying that this is trying to make courts the arbitrator of law, but what it actually does is it puts the ball back in the court of the legislators and tells them, you have to write better legislation, otherwise it's going to be up in the air. You got to be clear, otherwise it's again back up for interpretation by courts to determine what the reasonable standard is.
Yeah, because it put it back in the hands that it should have been in. It should have never been in the hands of the regulatory as far as who the expert was. But basically, people, I know it sounded a little convoluted, but what did they say is in a court case, they were leaning towards the recommendations and the sayings of the regulators themselves as being the experts. Like they were the experts and they were telling the courts what the expert opinion was, and the courts were following their lead. That switched. The Supreme Court has said, no. You guys don't get to be experts anymore. The court gets to decide where the arbitration should be, and you guys are out. So basically took the teeth out of the regulators and gave it back to the courts for interpretation of whatever court case is in front of them and whatever's been laid out before them, whose argument was best, whatever, all the facts that are laid out. And it's good for crypto because it's so vague anyway, and nobody knows or has a roadmap. It's better to let the court interpret it, the courts tend to lean a little bit on the side of justice versus the regulator. And I'm not going to say that they are perfect or they're the best way to do this, but it's the best we got. And giving it to the hands of putting it in the hands of the regulators is not the way to go, has not been the way to go, especially for crypto. So giving it to the judges, I think is a little better way to see this thing through.
Very true. I'll give you one last final foray on this one. What you can see in your personal actual life, or the difference between administrations, this is US anyways, keep in mind, which is the difference between administrations without the actual passage of law, is what you see is the different interpretations of the head of those regulatory agencies. The actual law that was passed by Congress stating that like your administration shall ensure such and such is protected. They don't say to what degree or to how, but they just state that it shall be protected. Whoever is in charge of the agency, they pretty much make the determination and the interpretation of that legislation and then turn that and craft it into actual day-to-day use policy that you come in contact with. This is also in conjunction with stuff like the Administrative Procedures Act, which says that instead of like actually taking people to official court, you can kind of take them to administrative procedural court within your own administration. So it kind of creates this weird like half carriage of justice, which is like, instead of like, don't worry, we're not actually like suing you to put you in jail. We're just going to sue you for fines in accordance with the regulations that are adjudicated by the court system that is under our own regulatory administration. Makes no sense, right? Clear as mud.
Yeah, it has been a fiasco that crypto's had to endure for too long, and I'm glad that the teeth have been removed. And I think that's another reason why they're backing off. They've lost so many cases. They've gotten chastised for their actions, for taking it too far because they were given such power, and now their teeth have been removed. So it's like no wonder they're backing off and cowering in the corner right now. And it's an election year. So it's like, lay off everybody right now. Let's not forget the election year. Everything's going to be weird and odd until this is over with, you know?
I don't mean to fearmonger this, but I do just want to remind people that the election is on November 2nd, I'm pretty sure. It's either the 2nd or the 7th, forgive me. If it's the 2nd, then that means that the next FOMC meeting after the September one is November 7th. Too many dates to keep track of. But the point that I'm making is this, which is that if you've thought it's a wild ride up until this point, where we've had one unfortunately somewhat precedented thing, which was an assassination attempt on a former president and the front runner for the democratic process right now, and then the actual unprecedented thing, which was a sitting president who had won the nomination for their party kind of being strong-armed out of their own nomination by their own party, and then given the nomination to another person who never won it by a singular vote. That is unprecedented. Like, Donald Trump was shot like 3 weeks ago, and it's already like old news at this point.
Old news. Like,
I know.
That's so weird.
It is. You mentioned
a former president was almost assassinated.
Like, he's not even talking about it.
The thing.
It's crazy how fast the news cycle goes. We're still about 100. We're about 100 days out from this election. If you thought it's crazy up until now, I'm not trying to like fearmonger, but at the same time,
right.
Be ready. It can and probably will get a little bit worse. So, I mean, this is a bit of a personal plea, but like, understand that like it does rain sometimes. Sometimes crazy stuff happens. Just be prepared in whatever that means, whether it's like having a little extra food and water, maybe batteries for a flashlight, or at least just talking to people you know and trust about creating an emergency plan. And God forbid something crazy happens. It's nothing conspiratorial. Like, yeah, the tinfoil hat is clearly off for this segment. It's like, be ready, be some degree of prepared. I'm not telling you to build the full on bunker, but at the same time, like, know your exits, man. Come on.
What are you expecting?
October surprise for sure. I think.
What do you think is going to happen, Zenith?
So I think that one of the few things that could happen is right now, Kamala Harris is such a new candidate in the race, even though she literally has run for president in the last 4 years, but we've somehow memory hold that already. But I think that one of the possibilities is that the entire media apparatus is going to try to keep Kamala Harris in the honeymoon phase of the campaigning thing up through the election so that she never gets a tough question, never really faces scrutiny, and people are more just excited about it being not Joe Biden to vote for so that they go do that. Other than that, an October surprise is absolutely a possibility, whether it's, I don't know, finally releasing the Epstein client list or something crazy like that. Or, I don't know, another rally of like someone trying to put out information, but they then being suppressed by big tech. Although at the same time, though, keep in mind this, it sounds crazy to say, but Donald Trump was convicted of multiple felonies and the sentencing date was postponed. It's still entirely possible that Donald Trump could legitimately be tried to be put in jail as the front runner for the presidential election. It's entirely possible, and that's a constitutional question that the courts have never had to answer before and is still very much up in the air. Could someone be a president and be elected out of a prison? Yeah, it's entirely possible.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But definitely there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be, obviously there will be election issues. You know, whatever it is, whatever side, there's going to be election issues. Period. End of story. That's been ever since the Bush v. Gore. That's all we've had is election issues, whether it be dangling chads or electors being misrepresented or whatever. So we're definitely going to see that. So plan on, November 5th, which is election day, Tuesday, November 5th, not being the end of it. I would imagine we're going to see that whole week of chaos, pandemonium, and who knows. And then, of course, who knows what happens before that. Right now, things are looking rather strange to me, and how things are playing out. And like you said, the news cycle, where it's going, like one of the most significant events of our lifetimes, where a president was nearly assassinated, and we've stopped talking about it. A couple of weeks later, it's not news. When Reagan got shot, we talked about it for a year. Like, you saw that video, and everybody who got shot on it. I mean, we saw who was the gentleman, his Secretary of Defense, I think it was, that got shot in the head and ended up in a wheelchair during that whole thing. I can't remember, but we saw him all the time. It was all about that. Like, the news cycle was full of that for a year. Like, there was
someone threw a pie at the Canadian Prime Minister, and we still talk about it. And that was like 2 prime ministers ago.
Yeah, so I don't
I
don't understand this, but I mean, I did see I think on the news today the Secret Service, whoever he is, who took over, second in charge.
Oh, the acting director.
Director. He got up and did he was talking to press for an hour today. I didn't hear much of what he said, but he was out there talking. That's literally the only thing I've heard. So it's just a very strange cycle. We have some very strange, like you said, Kamala Harris was running for president and was booted out in the first round of the primaries. Like, literally booted out the first round of the primaries.
Did not make it to the primary in her own state to receive a single vote in any primary. I'm just saying. The thing that's also kind of weird for me is that a lot of the campaign advertisements for Kamala Harris is talking about how she's going to be a prosecutor president. That's not really the role of the president. It's kind of like a sub role as the head of the Department of Justice. But B, that was also back in the early 2000s. Since then, she's done significant things like, I don't know, be a senator for many years and be the actual vice president to a president who acted more that she was a co-president than vice president, and has actually openly stated that Kamala Harris has been very active in some of the major decisions and roles going on, like the pullout from Afghanistan, a lot of foreign policy, the border crisis, for example. Like, there's clearly things to talk about here, but just please be aware of the propaganda. And then I guess you guys did put me on the spot earlier. I'll say this much. When it comes to election time, I see 3 possible scenarios. 2 decent, 1 not decent. The first 2 scenarios is that there's a very large, substantial electoral win in either direction, so that there's no question about who won the election. And those are the 2 scenarios. It's either Kamala or Trump. And at this point, I feel kind of weird saying it. We've seen that it's entirely possible for a candidate to get forced out this late in the game. Theoretically, they could switch up again. It's not too crazy. The Democratic National Convention has not happened yet, by the way.
Yeah.
But the undesirable scenario is that it's close and unclear who actually won the election. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial here. I'm just stating facts when I say this. The last election was disputed by many people, including people sitting in Congress and Senate, about the electoral slates. The Supreme Court chose not to hear a lawsuit from some states suing other states about the constitutionality of their elections affecting their elections. That was chosen not to be taken up by the Supreme Court. So that question is still very much in the air. And then the other thing is that even in the 2016 election, there's a decent amount of people that truly believe that the election was some sort of rigged or stolen by the Russians. And if you want to go all the way back to the hanging Chad example, was that 2000 with Bush and Gore, or was that 2004?
Yeah. No,
exactly.
It was later. Yeah, it was 2004, I believe.
Yeah. So the point is that elections have been in question for basically the last 2 decades at this point. Why do you think that this year is going to be any different? Especially with heightened tensions and heightened rhetoric, so to speak. I'm not going to say heightened stakes, but it kind of feels like it. So like,
And
yeah,
AI.
oh gosh, yeah. Like, I'm not gonna say that this is the hell of our own making, but like, ugh, I hope you're ready, folks. I hope you're ready. Just,
Yeah.
at the same time, though, I will say this. This is a final plea for preparedness. You know what the best book, in my personal opinion, is for the creation of a so-called intelligence network of people that you effectively trust and know how to work with on a daily basis? It's actually from Paul Revere. Paul Revere's Ride. This is not a well-known book, but this is actually back in the 1700s talking about building intelligence networks is getting to know people and getting to trust people and just talking about plans ahead of time so that in case anything ever happens, everyone is on the same page, everyone knows what to do, and you're not worried about being spoofed by AI or anything. You all know and trust each other in person and have that working relationship and build those societal bonds and ties that'll keep you all together, safe, and in the same direction. All
Love
right,
it.
soapbox over, I swear.
Love it. Love it. Well, it's definitely going to be fun and exciting and dangerous all at the same time. And be ready for it. And anything could happen. I do, however, think that no matter what, we are looking at change bringing out abundance and good things to come. I think that after the long lull of the C-19 and everything that we've been through over the last few years, that the world is ready to move forward into the 21st century and start capitalizing on the technologies and the good things that we have on this planet to go, make the world a better place and bring abundance, and that means jobs and work for people to go do things. And I think it's time for that. And no matter what the outcome of this election, I think that that's going to be where the direction this country goes. I think people are ready for it, and that's where we're going to be heading, because the velocity of money is important. And when people start to, and it's funny when we talk about they turn the spigot on and turn the spigot off and get that money moving or stopping. And lately it's been stopped. And I think that's been, getting everybody thirsty. And once they turn it back on, then I think we're ready to move forward. And we'll see how that comes about and who brings it about.
Very true. Hey, by the way, we were talking about emerging technologies. I did want to give a little shine to one of the project founders that happens to be on stream right now and check in and see how his exchange is going. Yeah, that guy. Last time I talked, last time I talked with you, I think we were saying that the 2Fucks exchange had about $2 million in total volume locked, or total value locked, excuse me. How are we doing?
That was weird. That we were just talking about liquidity for the token itself, right? Like the amount of value locked in 2Fucks / Fox is more like $16 million, right?
Wow.
So Fox is now the second biggest DEX on PulseChain by total value locked. So after PulseX, of course. So there's a lot of money moving through there, and then 2Fucks is built on top of Fox, and everything runs through our front end. We recently had a big update. I mean, recently, like during this stream, it came out. There's a whole bunch of new pools. We have there's now Solana yield farming on PulseChain as of like
that's
7 minutes ago.
That's badass. You heard it here first.
It's for
right
sure.
On.
Like in multiple pools. There's multiple pools where you have wrap Bitcoin bridge from Ethereum. You have Ethereum bridge from Ethereum, and you now have Solana on PulseChain that you can farm for lower fees. And I'm going to do my best to make sure it's higher APR than you could possibly get on Solana or Ethereum. So, and there's already hundreds of thousands of dollars of that bridged over, right? There's going to be more, right? Like the Solana bros are going to be like, holy shit, for 10 cents a transaction, I can farm my Solana for 150% APR. And they're going to come. And if it works with Solana, maybe it'll work with Matic. If it works with Matic, maybe it'll work with AVAX, we can keep it rolling. Right. So, and if those assets come over, it's almost the same as people bridging stable coins over to PulseChain, right? Like more total value locked on the chain that comes from off the chain is a game changer. So
Value.
now this is just part of it too. Like I'm interested in the farming component because that's what our protocol does. That's what 2Fucks does. That's what Yellowcake and I are focused on. But there's also leverage. Like you can leverage 15x on the famous protocol with the PH team, with Solana, right, and with Bitcoin and with Ethereum. Like there's all these things that are happening on the PulseChain right now. So yeah, super stoked about that. And there's gonna be many more games to be played with that kind of stuff. We're gonna be real players in the crypto sphere with these kind of tools. So yeah, super stoked. Glad to be able to tell you here first.
Sounds like you already are a real player.
Lesser news, we also added a feature to the 2Fucks front end that will allow us to give additional yield tokens. So people who are doing yield farming are going to start to get, particularly in pools that contain the 2Fucks token, they're going to get additional tokens on top. So we're going to be launching meme coins via my Camel Clan project, the Yellowcake and I have been working on, where we can add meme coins as additional yield on top of the yield that they're already getting in these farms. So we can launch a new meme coin and have it dripped out to people who are providing liquidity on various tokens, and other people are going to contribute to that as well. So I already have founders coming to me with meme coins they want to launch, and they want to give them away for free to people who are providing liquidity on other tokens. Like, it's going to be basically a like almost a launch pad for new projects. And it's not just meme coins. People are launching utility things, and they want to give out their utility tokens to incentivize yield pools on all kinds of things, right? So there's a lot of really interesting stuff. Like this is the technology high end of liquidity providing anywhere basically. And we're super happy to be at the front of this. And I think when people from the other chains see this stuff happening, like maybe it's going to be a couple more months, but they're going to come. I'm pretty stoked, very confident.
Well, it's the fact that you guys are doing it now when nobody's looking, that's what's exciting, because they're going to wake up and go, oh shit, all this is over here.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So
for sure.
Hey man, PulseChain and the Hexicans, the people that have been around Richard, have brought the best of the best to DeFi. I'm excited for what's about to happen. All right, everybody. Well, I want to thank a couple people in the chat room. Logi33, thank you. I appreciate your comment, man. Melv Tony, thank you for all the help. You're the best. Always have been. And we have a celebrity, everybody. Johnny Chaos was in the chat room. Johnny Chaos, my good friend. And what a great Hexican he is. He's been on the Twitters, waking back up and getting excited. It's good to see a lot of the Hexicans back around. Hexo, Johnny, all those people out there still towing the line, still bringing it to you, and trying to make a positive impact on this horrible bear market. All right, guys, thanks for coming. I appreciate you. We'll see you guys all next week. Monday, I think me and SJ got to have a guest. Maybe I'm even going to be doing a FanForge thing, so keep an eye on that. We're going to be bringing the FanForge guys to the table and talking about it, and we'll catch you guys all in the next one. Thanks for coming.